The problem on social media is people who were born after ESAP is a problem on social media. And people who were born after ESAP, I will need to tell you this and need to understand this. You don't vote. Well, welcome everybody. I'm your host, Emon Pangana Mhlanga, but I like to call myself Pangana Mhlanga these days. But anyway, today I just want to talk about the letter that I wrote to Nelson Chamisa regarding what is happening and how he has handled it as a leader. So basically and frankly speaking, I'm not happy with what is happening in Zimbabwe with our opposition parties. And most people need to understand that this is not the first time it's happening, but it's coming back in a different form and a different scenario. We had had the Atam Tambara faction that divided votes for us, and a lot has happened. And at that point, we lost the majority in parliament, which we could have easily won. When Atam Tambara came with the MDCM, he came and went. We have never heard about Atam Tambara ever again. And the same happened with Washman Nue and Job Sikala. I need to talk to you about Job Sikala at the same time. Right? But all these things happening, I've never had an MDC being led by Thokozani Mkupe that went against Changirai alive. Let's understand that. The only party that went against the MDC that was being led by Kupe was when Morgan Changirai had died. So we have got a problem with our opposition parties in Zimbabwe. The main reason is they allow themselves to be divided by the ruling party, and they also divide themselves. You see, now the ruling party doesn't have to do much. We are going to be dividing ourselves. And before we go to any election, it is very important for people to understand that before we go to any election, we have to fight for identity before we can fight the common enemy, which is disturbing. Right now, all the news that we are getting in our media tablets and everything on social media or so, and it's the fight between the MDCT and Alliance. This is very disturbing. 2023 is just around the corner. Everybody should know that, and we should respect that. But before we go to that 2023, we have not determined who's going to represent the person who's going to fight against ZANU-PF. We are fighting for identity. People are saying we are alliance, we are T, and they're saying no, we are T, or alliance, and they're tired. This is we've got right to represent the people. And these ones are saying we have got the right to represent the people. This right we claim we are fighting over is the right to fight against the common enemy. And I'm a supporter of the revolution. I support the revolution, but what is happening right now is very disturbing, to say the least. We have to fight each other first before we can fight the common enemy. And what is more disturbing is if you criticize Chamisa on social media, most people will regard you as a ZANU-PF project. That is not fair, but I would take it. That's okay. But that does not make me a ZANU-PF project. I'm criticizing the decisions that they have made, which is bad. And a leader like Nelson Chamisa would understand constructive criticism. So if he doesn't take that constructive criticism and change the way they are doing these things, we're just wasting our time. We're going to a 2023 election with the same scenario that we had in the previous election with the TN Alliance. We have been doing these things since 2005. And what is surprising is we're going to expect different results. Okay, only a fool does that, right? You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's not going to happen. The same result will be ZANU-PF will win the election with landslide, and that's it, because we are fighting against each other. The problem on social media is people who were born after ESAP is a problem on social media. And people who were born after ESAP, I will need to tell you this and need to understand this. You don't vote. You have never felt the responsibility to vote. You do not know, or you have never understood the process of voting. But what you do is you say things that you do not know. This MDC was formed when we could vote, and some of us, we are voting citizens. We understand voting. But if I post a post on social media against Chamisa, you quickly attack and say things that you have never said before in your life. Some words you have never used in your life. What is that, guys? What is that? Go and vote. And express your anger through a ballot paper. Basically, don't be on social media and say things that you do not understand. You do not understand how the unit accord came to be. You do not understand the ESAP, where the ESAP, of course, I was born free after the independence, but I understand all those things, unit accord and ESAP, and what happened there. And also I understand, because most of you do not understand what happened in 1997 when we gave the war veterans money. Most of you were wearing diapers by then. Grow up. Read books, read the history, use Wikipedia. It will help you a lot to understand the history of Zimbabwe. So when we criticize the actions and the attitude that Nelson Chamisa has, we have got a serious problem. Because for me, I understand for a fact that Kupe is justified in what she is doing, because she was wrongfully removed and unconstitutionally removed from the vice presidency. The only evidence that you people have is hearsay. The only information that you have about Kupe when Morgan Tsvangirai was on a deathbed, and also remember, he was incapacitated. He couldn't think straight. It is also important for people to acknowledge and understand that even if he was on a deathbed and incapacitated, he didn't even have the power to appoint anybody to vice presidency. The party has a constitution. The same constitution that was used against Nelson Chamisa to determine who has the right to be the president of the MDC. Chamisa did not lose this war based on the constitution of Zimbabwe. He lost the war based on the constitution of the MDC, which they filed when they registered to be a political party in 1999. You need to understand these things, guys. It's not about emotion sometimes, but sometimes you just have to use common sense. Like I said, we are fighting for identity before we can fight the common enemy, right? The problem is you are saying Chamisa, but we need to understand, you also criticize the way he handled these things. It's wrong, manipulative. We saw the same attitude with Robert Mugabe when he accused Ndabaningi Story of trying or attempting to murder Ian Smith through a letter that it is allegedly, actually it was allegedly being written by Ndabaningi Story when he was in prison, and Robert Mugabe was also in prison. So they say that Ndabaningi Story wrote a letter instructing people to kill Ian Smith. I mean, how stupid my uncle would have been to write such a letter, knowing fully that any letter that is going out of prison will be read by the prison guards. That is just stupid. But they went to a congress with those lies, and he was removed from power. The same that has happened with Chamisa when he told people that Kupe is no longer a member of the MDC. This is just hearsay. There's no evidence to prove that. Because if they had evidence to prove that, they could have presented or should have presented that evidence in court when they were fighting with Kupe regarding who's the rightful leader of the MDC. This is just common sense. You listen to lies and you believe lies. The same manipulative idea and the same manipulative methodology and tactics that Robert Mugabe had is the same that Nelson Chamisa has. We don't talk about his business he had with Robert Mugabe during the GNU. He trucks, his company were giving Robert Mugabe transport services for the Gushunga Day. This is not just because the Kube faction said it. We all know that. We knew about it even during the GNU. We knew that Chamisa was doing business with Robert Mugabe, right? But for some of us, we understand that his company acted consistently, and as it was incorporated in the Companies Act 2403, it acted consistent with the going concern of such a company, which is okay. But the director of that company allowing such business transaction to happen acted inconsistent with what the MDC stood for, and it was pure conflict of interest, which is bad, because if you can allow conflict of interest to take over and you move along with that and you do not deem it to be conflict of interest, then there's a problem. We do have Tendabiti as well. He was a senior member of the MDC representing criminals as a defense lawyer. He does not see the conflict of interest in that act because he's just after money. These are the same people we are fighting, and these people he is defending are the same people who have been accused of corruption and crimes by their own political party, but he, Tendabiti, sees it fit for him to defend them in a criminal court with an attempt to prove them innocent. That's conflict of interest. If we are fighting misrule and corruption, if these guys have been accused of corruption by their own political parties, we should just stand back and let it be. But if we have a senior MDC member representing these people with this attempt of proving them innocent, then we have got a serious problem, because we do not know where we stand. That's my problem, you know. So as much as you want to denounce the message, or as long as you want to say things about the Chamisa and Tendabiti, we are at crossroads, guys. And I believe this opposition party has become part of the problem rather than a solution, which is a fact, because now we are fighting Thokozani Kube. We are fighting for identity. And as long as we keep on fighting for identity to 2023, we're going to see the same results that we saw in the previous election, where ZANU-PF won the election, because we are divided, which is a fact. Only a fool does not see that, which is a fact. Don't call people who follow Kupe ZANU-PF project. That is not true. Because Kupe has a right to fight for her position, because I believe she was wrongfully removed from that position. I've never seen an election which was MDCK Kupe. We had the 99 with Jobo Sikala. Jobo Sikala, that is with the alliance right now. The same guy that was in jail. He caused a lot of problems in Zengeza there when he represented himself of the MDC 99. And even Watchman Nube himself, we went to an election when he was opposing our leader who formed this political party, which is Morgan Tsvangirai. But never had any opposition party that has ever gone to an election that was formed by Kupe. Kupe have never formed any political party or renamed any political party that has gone against Morgan Tsvangirai. That is period, it's a fact, and people need to understand that. If you do not understand that, there's something wrong with you, because you have idolized Chamisa as a god. And Chamisa, the problem that he has is he has seen that idolization, and he now believes and thinks that everything that he does is ordained by God and also by himself, which is a problem, counterproductive. Look how they dealt with the Job Sikala situation. Job Sikala had to spend another night in Remand prison because his bail was not posted. Of course, the argument was the ruling came in late. That is okay, right? But I know for a fact, if you have had your bail being posted before in your life, you understand that there will be the clerk the clerk at the court waiting for bails to be posted. As long as there is a court that is in session, they will wait for you. The problem is they didn't have Job Sikala's money in the first place. So when his bail was granted, they started running around and looking for money. You can argue all sorts of withdrawal limits and stuff like that, but I can tell you that they had enough time to gather up all the money they can for Job Sikala, which was just 50,000, which is just $500. Everybody is allowed to move around with that money, and don't argue that it's too much. There's nothing too much like 50,000. People can still move around with 50,000 in Zimbabwe. And if they had been doing that or collecting whatever bank limit they had a chance to do that, because Job Sikala was in court on the 22nd of September 2020. And they knew he was going to be in court the last time he was in court, when he was further remanded to that date. So they should have just had his money. It's simple and straightforward. So the problem is the political party that we so love and support does not have models that calculate the outcomes of their decisions. That's basically it, and this is what is happening. Job Sikala bail was just 50% and 50% denial. Simple as that. Wopo Chinono had the same scenario where his judgment was delayed, but they still managed to pay for his bail. People need to understand that, because the people who were working with Wopo Chinono had his bail with them in their pockets. It's silliness, actually, for a political party to start running around when someone has been granted bail and they don't have 50,000. So that type of silliness, he has me worried, because if they cannot calculate the probable and most common outcome for the decision that they make, then they don't have a right to represent us, because they don't actually know what they're doing. To my fellow Chamisa supporters, it's fine, but you need to understand that I know you. I've been going through your profiles. Most of you were born after Aesop. Understand that you don't understand where I am coming from.